Is this thing on? Thank you for tuning in to Self-Publishing Insiders with Draft to Digital. And we love doing these Ask Us Anythings where you get to tune in and just like the title implies, ask us anything. But we do try to stick to a theme primarily. And the theme for today's AUA is industry insights. And who better to talk about industry insights than our resident expert who's come on several times to do a full episode about this, Mark Lefebvre. And of course, we have Nick Thacker, who's just always on the pulse of the industry. So thank you guys for joining me today.
Isn't Nick's middle name Pulse?
I think his name is Pulse. Nick Pulse Thacker.
Yeah, that's right.
I've been called worse. I'll take it. That's all right. I'll take it. Good to be here.
Before we get started, I do want to tell everybody who is tuning in live, if you have questions, make sure you ask them in the comments, because if we can't answer them on air, we have lots of people hanging out in the comments to answer for them directly. So make sure you do that. And I mark these questions as they come in so that we can remember to ask them. We already had a couple. We've got 2 or 3 questions already lined up, but we'll get to those in a minute. But first, when we start talking about industry insights, Mark, what sorts of things are we looking at?
I think we're looking at trends to help authors understand what's trending where. And again, we get so much data in looking at the various BISAC codes. So that's the Book Industry Standards and Communications. It's the subject codes, basically. So what subjects are selling, what kinds of things are selling based on the metadata that we're getting from the numerous, how many retailers and how many libraries do we distribute to? About 15, roughly. So we've got data from a whole bunch of sources, and then we can break it down by where things are selling by country, et cetera, et cetera. Now, all I was able to do is grab some initial Q1 of 2023 data, but I do want to remind people that we participated in Ally, and you had Orna on a few weeks ago, in the Ally Big Data Dump, and that's coming out later this month on the 21st. So this is a really in-depth look of data that we provided, as well as at least a half dozen other great people in the industry provided data to the Alliance of Independent Authors. And I believe they're revealing that on the 21st of June this month. So that's going to be really exciting, because it's going to take our data as well as data from across the board. And what I can tell you, one of the cool things that I saw when I was previewing and confirming that they got the data right is that 1 or 2 of the elements from the indie author income report that they revealed, they've started to tease out, that it's pretty much in sync with what we have been sharing as well. So it's really, really great to get that, 2 points of data on the same topic and see some of the confirmation. But I'm not going to reveal what that confirmation is. You're going to have to stay tuned for the 21st.
Yeah, we can't spoil everything. It is interesting though, because we get a certain insight into the industry because of our reach and because of the number of retailers we deal with, and the number of authors and titles too. Like 1 million titles at this point, very close. Am I wrong on that? I know it's a high number. quite and more than I wrote, let's just put it that way. So that gives us a pretty interesting perspective on the industry itself. Nick, you've kind of seen, you're like me, you've seen, well, Mark is too, but you've seen the industry from inside and out, both sides of the aisle. What are some things that you just off the top of your head have seen trending in the industry lately? What's the
First
big
of all,
topic?
I'm nothing like you. I hope everybody knows that. I'm just kidding. We are pretty similar. Yeah. So that, putting me on the spot here, I guess, trend wise, I have noticed, and again, I'm just going to say this because it's worth saying, and I'll probably repeat it. This is anecdotal evidence, right? This is my experience, not data that Mark's talking about, not data from Ally, but my own personal publishing experience. It seems like the taboo for self-published authors has lifted. And what I mean by that is a few things. First of all, the big one is I don't see pricing being the main driver for a book's success. Early on in the industry, in the indie industry specifically, it was almost like a race to the bottom where we had books getting cheaper and cheaper. And you could almost assuredly tell that there was a book that was self-published or indie published because it was 99 cents or even $2.99. I don't see that anymore. I mean, we were just looking at a book and it looks like it's being published at $7.99. And so again, this is all anecdotal, but that's my biggest takeaway is I'm no longer worried about price being the major factor, major concern. I'm going to price it at the point I'm going to make the best profit. And that's a hard question to answer, surely, for every author, but that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah. You just did a post for the D2D blog about pricing as well, right?
It's funny you mentioned that. I just wrote an article for our blog. Go check that out. We can drop the link in here, I'm sure. One of the magical fairies that tend to listen in, they have that kind of stuff. If I try to do it, I'll break everything and my phone will explode. So there is a blog post that I just wrote on pricing in 2023. And so I talk more about the practical, tactical tips rather than this high-level strategic stuff. But I think it's helpful for any author. If you're listening to this, you're probably one of us. Go read that.
What's the secret takeaway we need to know right now from that article?
Well, the secret takeaway you need to know right now is that it's going to be different for every author. You already knew that. But I'm trying to get it through to every single author that you can change your pricing strategy per book as well. If you launch at 99 cents today, you can launch at $6.99 tomorrow. There's no problem with another book. There's no problem doing that. Pricing isn't the major driver. It is a major driver, but it's not the main one anymore in 2023.
Okay. So Mark, now it's your turn to give us what's the biggest takeaway you want to deliver today when it comes to the industry. What's the big change, or what's the big trend?
He's going to say that pricing is the biggest thing that we need.
He's going to. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for that. I'm prepared for that.
You stole my thing, Nick. I mean, yeah, you're right. That is a reflection of how the industry has grown and changed. And I've been admiring just how much indie authors have continued to grow and evolve in really positive ways. And it's not just about the pricing, but it's about planning ahead and strategies. Like a lot of the author promotions that Megan on our team does with our various retailers, especially the ones like Apple and Kobo or Barnes and Noble, that behave more like traditional bookstores. The authors who plan ahead and who don't just finish a book, get it edited, and then publish it immediately, but actually have a plan.
Okay. I don't know if everybody's...
I'm seeing you and hearing you, Kevin. Are you still here?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right.
Okay.
I think we lost Mark. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that, everyone. And that's bad news for all of us because Mark was the one leading the entire discussion on this. So we're...
It turns out Kevin Tomlinson and I have some extemporaneous speaking experience, so we're going to make this work no matter what.
We're going to manage. Yeah, I just put a very monstrous URL on the screen. It looks like Mark's back. We'll get back to you in a second, Mark. But if you're interested in Nick's post on pricing, it's a huge, humongous URL. And I did drop it into the comments, so you should be able to click on it, hopefully.
I think that URL is longer than my post, actually.
That's about the same length. But the real secret here is if you go to draftdigital.com and you click on the blog link, you can find this post right now. It's like the third post on the site, but you can also just search for The Art of Pricing. Just search for that, and that will get you there for those who are listening. So, Mark, welcome back. We lost you there for a second, buddy. You with us?
I think he's still gone. I think he froze again.
Oh, he froze again.
Changed his pose and then just froze again.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about because there was data. We got data coming out from Ally. I don't know if Mark's back. I see you smiling, Mark. Can you hear us now? Okay. Sorry about this, folks. But we have gotten things from Ally. We submitted some things to them that are going to be in that report on the 21st. But we already know some of what's going to be included in that because they did release their author income survey back in April, and we talked about that with Orna Ross on the show a few weeks ago now. And that there were some really interesting things revealed in that. One of those was that the median income or the primary income for authors in 2022, that actually only came out to around, just under $13,000 per author, which is Interesting. That's the median, right? But the average income was over $80,000, which is significantly higher. Nick, what do you think is? I see Mark nodding, so you must be back. Are you back? Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. Apparently, a cat was chewing on the internet cable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's address the that disparity in author income for a second. Then I want us to dive right into what you're bringing us, Mark. But what do we think is going on there? Why is the average so low, but or why is the median so low, but the average is so high?
You wanted me first? Sorry.
Anybody.
Wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Anybody. No, I had to go find my old high school textbook to define these terms, because I'm from Texas, and so when we learn math, median, mean, and average all mean the exact same thing. So I had to go figure out what the difference is, right? But this is a big difference. This is a significant difference, and there's one of these numbers that skews higher. And I think for me, again, not telling you that this is all of the data and this is the official way to interpret it, but again, Nick's way of interpreting this just points back to the fact that in 2023 and beyond, because I don't see this changing, it is no longer easy to tell the difference financially. Like if you just get a number of how much income someone makes, it's no longer easy to tell if they are traditionally published or self-published. Yeah. Or as I think Kevin likes to say, and I think we should just coin this term right here, publishing means what we're doing right now. Yeah. And traditional publishing means what we used to do. And I know that that's not really a takeaway from these two numbers. There's more to it than that. But again, being in the industry, eating, breathing, living in this day to day for the last 10, 12 something years, this is big news, because it means publishing is different than it ever has been, in a very good way for you who are watching this right now. It may not look as good if your goal is to go that traditional route, right? It may be a little bit harder to crack in because there's a lot more competition. The gatekeeping is down. So a lot of reasons we can get into, but that's not what you asked. So that's my takeaway. That's personally what I feel.
Yeah. Mark, since you're back.
The minute I start talking, the internet's going to jump out again.
But talk fast, buddy.
Yeah, I will. No, I think as Nick alluded to earlier, that is a reflection of the change within our industry itself. It has long been a trend that authors who self-publish are jumped ahead of the mean or the average that the traditionally published author would make. I've even noticed as an author myself who does both traditional publishing and self-publishing that that's where the big money is, because you can get the benefit of both worlds. You can get the benefit of those in-person bookstore sales that you really get from traditional publishing. That's very difficult for us to get, even though we make it easy to get your print books out there. Getting them into stores is difficult, whereas my publishers have no problem with that because they invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in marketing to the stores, et cetera, et cetera. So you get a really great balance between that income. And what I've even noticed is my income in my self-published books is growing both for print and for ebooks. And my income as a traditionally published author has consistently been really crappy ebook sales, like horrible sales. I probably, my publisher in a year for, a half dozen of my books will sell as many ebooks of mine in that full year period that I would sell in the space of the time we're doing this hour-long conversation, because they're not good at selling ebooks, but they're really good at selling print books. So I'm noticing that more and more of my income's coming from the self-publishing sphere. But in addition to that, also recognizing that a lot of my income's coming from other sources, new sources, library markets. Look at how many library markets we've launched in the last year, the growth of that market. And here's a stat for you that I pulled out from Q1 of 2023. So in 2022, library unit sales, and this is for one copy, one user. This is for also the other model. Of course, I'm blanking on it. The two different models of library sales, whether they're purchased outright or whether you get revenue per royalties. It was 11.46% in 2022, and in the first quarter only of this year, it was 15.26%. So from 2020, when we started to see significant library growth, that growth is continuing to go forward. And so that's where I think a lot of that additional revenue can come in, because with library pricing, they're not tied to retail prices. It's a separate price. And we do encourage authors to price their library books at 2 to 3 times the retail price. And so obviously that's leading to much larger income streams for authors. And I don't really think it wasn't covered, at least in some of the reports I saw, but I have to wonder if that's where some of those sales are coming from.
Yeah. That is interesting, because people don't often connect library with sales. Everyone automatically thinks of library, it's free, it's, I'm not making any
Yeah.
money, to the point where there are people in the industry who just are actively against libraries, because the claim is that it's training people to get the book for free. My experience is different, by the way. My experience is that people discover you in the library, and when they do have disposable income, they're much more likely to buy a copy of your book. Like if you put out something new later, it's always those folks who discovered you in the libraries who come back.
And Kevin, we did have the Panorama Project people on Self-Publishing Insiders last year, and they revealed stats that showed that libraries actually help sell more books.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, that's what do you think is the effect happening there?
Well, book lovers, right? People, I have friends who use the library exclusively. They read more, they get more books, and they talk about the books. They're passionate about the books. And when I talk about a book that I love, and I'm, we're chatting over coffee or whatever, and I'm talking about a book I just read, if you're a book lover, you're going to want to go look it out. And if you're a library patron, you're probably going to go see if you can get it at the library. If you are a person who only, buys ebooks on Kindle or Kobo or Nook or any of those places, you're just going to go and buy it where you buy books. So again, the more people reading your book, the more passionate book lovers sharing their love of books, the more that's going to lead to readers. And in many places, that will mean sales.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a discoverability tool above just about everything else, but it's also a source of revenue. I mean, I know plenty of people. I've met plenty of authors who say they're getting, it's not necessarily their primary income, but they are getting a pretty sizable chunk of money from library sales. So, and by the way, we have a whole page dedicated. I was searching for it while we were chatting, but it's OCOU versus CPC. What are the two terms you were looking for? I'm going to drop a link to this in the chat. It's draftedigital.com/library-pricing. Which is why I was having such a hard, that dash is why I was having such a hard time finding it, by the way. We need to get like a near miss for that, but that'll give you a breakdown of how library pricing works. All right, so let's real quick, since we've got questions kind of piling up, let's take a look at a couple of them real quick. I'm going to say that Matthew's last name is pronounced Creek. Matthew, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I happen to think that's a cool last name. But yeah, he says, my first published book comes out on July 3rd. I have 0 pre-orders. Should I be worried? And I want to tack on, because he added, I have 120 mailing list subscribers and 19 ARC readers. So we do need to factor that into our answer. But should Matthew be worried that he's not getting any pre-orders?
No. I mean, is this your first book, Matthew, as well? I mean, if it's not your first book, if it's and it looks like it may be, I went over to Kobo, this token Canadian, because we had a few minutes before the session, and looked up Matthew's book, and I'm looking at Beacon. Looks like a fantastic book. I wouldn't be worried, but I want to make sure, Matthew, a couple bits of advice potentially is, are you taking advantage of the free universal book link from Books to Read that you can use for this book? Have you shared it to your newsletter? Have you sent them reminders? And, there could be people that are just waiting to get their hands on it. And have you shared that, in as many places as possible? Because I'll be honest with you, I share stuff on Facebook, for example, all the time. And even though I think I've overshared, and it's like, wow, I'm sharing this again, and I'm sharing it again, I'm sharing it again. Almost every single time I share something, people come back at me and go, oh my God, I never knew that. I never saw it before, because the algorithms are horrible, right? And it's really, really difficult to get that visibility. And that's just something that you can't really overshare the excitement about this book. Because I'll be honest with you, Matthew, I looked at it and I go, wow, this looks like a really fun urban fantasy superhero kind of adventure that, I'm like, I'm tempted to go buy it on Kobo right now. Maybe you'll get a pre-order out of that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great cover. I think it's a pretty decent price for that. I know it's a novella, but here's something I would look into though, Matthew, because when I looked, Nick and I both were looking for this on the usual places, and so far we're not seeing the ebook show up on a couple of the big retailers like Amazon and Books to Read, and really I only saw the paperback version show up on Amazon. So you may want to look into that and see if there was a hang up. Check your dashboard in D2D. Make sure there's not a message saying that there was some sort of, hold put on it or something for one reason or another, because that can happen. And if you are experiencing a problem, email our support folks at support@draftedigital.com. They can help walk you through some things. So hopefully that will help. Also, if you are, Mark was mentioning this before the call, but like if you're going direct to someone like Amazon or elsewhere with that, and you're not using us to get to that retailer, then those sales won't show up on your Draft to Digital dashboard. So could be all kinds of things happening there, but those are the like top of mind ones. I have to ask this question. Quizmaster China, who fired off like 100 questions, and we'll see Quizmaster China a lot, but how to get into China. And my best advice is pick a spot and start digging. No, I'm sorry. What are some ways to get into Chinese markets? So this is always tough because China can be so restrictive about content. So
There's a difference between distributing and sending it there and it actually getting in, because I honestly believe that, yeah, sure, they get sent, but who knows if they ever actually get published. So that's been been a challenge. I even remember back from the days when I worked at Kobo, it's easy enough to send stuff, but not necessarily making it all the way there for various reasons. Why, restrictive, tight security for anything coming in, especially digitally.
Yeah, I actually don't even know if any of my books are currently available to the Chinese market. I mean, I know that I have selected that as one of the markets it can go to, but I don't follow it to see if it's getting through there, because I figure, China, they're probably going to block a lot of stuff. That's the feeling I get. All right, so sorry for the puns and jokes, by the way. Here's another one. This is an important question from Robin. Core question: at conferences, who is best dressed, Kevin or Mark? Mark's always wearing a suit, and most of the time I'm very casual. I'm only like fancy when I talk or I'm doing I'm going to be in front of people officially. I might wear a waistcoat or something like that. So I think Mark wins on the best dressed for D2D.
People think I'm wearing pants right now too. That's the funny part.
Yeah. Now Nick just likes to wear sweat. He wears a whole lot of sweat when he goes to the
That's not true. I've seen Nick look pretty sharp, pretty fancy.
Nick gets sharp. Yeah, he'll dress up. He'll do it, especially when he's doing a talk or something. You can count on Nick being a good-looking guy. Nick's a good-looking guy. All right. So, and a follow-up from Robin was, why is Kevin on here twice with a different name, which is a reference to me and Nick Thacker. So now somebody's got some, I don't know if everyone's hearing that. There's some static or something.
Or toilet flushing in the background.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that was Nick. All right. Okay. So, moving on just a little. So in terms of what we know about the industry, what we know that there's some things happening right now. I'll be honest, I'm getting kind of sick and tired of talking about AI, but that's clearly having an impact on the industry. So let's just do a little soft touch. Nothing official here happening. We don't really have like an official statement about AI really anyway, other than, we recognize that it's there. But Nick, how do you see AI impacting this industry right now?
Here's the way I see it impacting the industry. It's impacting the industry, and to ignore it is to be left behind. I honestly wish that weren't the case, but that is the case. Consider a probably poor analogy, but those of us still writing exclusively on a typewriter are going to be having a much harder time a go at this compared to the guys writing on a computer, on Microsoft Word or Vellum or whatever, Scrivener, whatever you write in. Not a perfect analogy, like I said, but you kind of get the point. You are allowed your preferences, of course. If you love typewriters like Kevin does, write in a typewriter. But you're going to be passed up if you don't know at least a little bit about what comes next. Okay,
Yeah.
so AI is the same way. You can absolutely still pay an illustrator who's human, as far as you can tell, to illustrate your book cover, and that's probably a great idea. But if you don't at least understand some of the dialogue happening between those illustrators and something like Midjourney, an AI art creation tool, then you will be left behind. And I wish I could soften that a little bit, but that's just the way it is. I'm not telling you guys that you have to jump in and start doing everything with AI, but I am saying you have to pay attention. You have to try to keep your finger on the pulse of this industry because AI is where it's going. And I'm not saying jump on the bandwagon, but I am saying at least recognize there's a bandwagon and watch where it's going, watch where it's headed.
Nick, we have a question for another one from Robin that I think is specifically for you. Do you adjust pricing based on the length of a book, say 60K versus 120K in the same series? And would you price up and down if one is longer or shorter than the others in the series?
Here's the deal. In a series, honestly, if you've got one book that's 60K and one book that's 120K, I don't think those should be in the same series. Or you should take that 120K book and split it in half or lengthen the 60K book. Right. So I think that's outside of my personal accepted range for books in the same series.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I would say price the book at 60K. And if that's full length for you, decide on what your full price is. And I talk about this in the blog post, low, medium, and high. And those are ranges. For me, low price is 99 cents to $2.99. Medium is $3.99 to like $5.99. And $6.99 to $9.99 is what I consider high price for ebooks. Now, you get to pick your own. As an author, you get to do whatever you want. It's your business. If you want to adopt mine, fine. So in that case, full price would be anything $6.99 or up. And so if I'm writing a full price or full length book, not a novella, not a short, not anything like that, but a full length book, it's going to most likely be $6.99, $7.99, $9.99, and then all of the books in that series are going to be the same length. Right. Reverse is true. If you're going shorter, price it lower, but keep them all reasonably priced within that same series. I would say the same because you don't want to freak people out. Of course, now listen, there's exceptions here. If you're doing a launch strategy or a promotional strategy where you want to lower the price of book one temporarily or even permanently, that's different. Okay. So 99 cents to get people into the series. I'm doing that right now with my own books. But there's 15 books in the series and all of them, except for the first 3, are full price at $6.99. So I hope that serves you well. I hope that helps. That's how I approach this stuff.
Yeah, that's like a paid lead magnet at that point, which is, everyone likes to be paid. I like to be paid. Alberto from YouTube says, terrible joke. I respect that, Alberto. I respect your take. Thank you for letting me know.
He probably just didn't understand it. We should repeat it 5 times.
We should just repeat the joke.
It's like any good dad joke has to be repeated.
We call that Kev-splaining. All right. Here's a question. It's up for anybody who wants to answer. Are literary agents more trouble than they're worth these days?
Depends on who the agent is. I mean, there are some amazing agents still operating in the business that are dynamic, that work with authors who are both traditionally published and self-published. They're the agents that I'm familiar with are encouraging authors. Hey, I can't sell this through the traditional chains because of again, there's only 5 major publishers. There used to be 12 when I started in this industry. So there's not as much leeway. And a lot of the greater agents that I see are very open and flexible to allowing authors the ability to do both. And you can really leverage them. So what I would say is it's a relationship, just like an editor that you work with. It's a really solid relationship you have to have with the editor where you're in sync. Is you have to be in sync with your agent. If you're not in sync with your agent, it is not worth it. That's my take on it anyways.
Yeah. I remember kind of coming up in this business and it was sort of a do anything for an agent kind of thing. Everyone in my circles, we were all just like anyone that would take us basically, which was the exact wrong approach. I will say this though, there's a kind of misconception that as a self-published author that you have no use whatsoever for an agent. I don't think that's exactly true. Depending on the relationship you have, like some agents can help you with certain things like, film and TV rights, all the adaptation rights that are available. They can help you with foreign translation rights and things like that. So, just because you're self-published doesn't mean an agent is someone just completely up. Now, a lot of times you don't need an agent. You definitely don't need an agent if you're just self-publishing and not trying for all those rights, but something to keep in mind as you go. So this one is a question on the AI content again. Do we think AI generated content will destroy nonfiction book market? It's likely there will be tools that create in minutes content tailored to individual customers. I don't think so, by the way. I don't think that AI content will displace or destroy any type of human written content. Just like there was a market for people who did rapid release, especially in like sci-fi and romance. But there was also still a market for the people who took a year to write a book. I think the same thing is applicable to AI content. There's always going to be a market for that stuff. I think it's a separate market from the stuff that individual writers produce. But I don't think we're going away. Like humans aren't being replaced by robots at this point. Maybe later, but
well, and here's the other thing. Here's the other thing about that, Kevin, and this is something I'm going to just lean on what Joanna Penn's been saying for the longest time. Is as a writer, doubling down on your humanity, doubling down on your authentic voice is a critical way, especially in nonfiction. Anyone can. I mean, I use ChatGPT to do a 1,000-word article on how to self-publish, and it was okay. It was pretty decent, and it's like billions of articles out on the internet about that. However, my take on how to self-publish is going to be unique from your take, Kevin, or your take, Nix, or whatever. Right. And I think that really good nonfiction written with a specific voice with a specific intent, people are going to want that person's version of it.
Right.
A perfect example is I released a book of trivia, one of my favorite movies last year, and I put a lot of my own personal reflections and experiences with the movie into the book. You're not going to see that in articles that just cover trivia about that movie, but it's very definitely part of the book. And I think some of the readers really appreciated that because it wasn't just a blow-by-blow bits of trivia, but it had that extra layer of humanity. And that's where us working with the machines can be beneficial.
And I think you've hit on something that is, I've been struggling to kind of capture this idea, but I think the way you put it has inspired me. But what we are selling now is experience. And when we are producing content on our own, from our own fingertips or our own voices, as Nick does, we're conveying not just facts, not just story, but the experience behind all of that we personally have had. And that's why I like to read like Walter Isaacson's stuff. That guy could write a biography about just about anybody, and I'm going to buy that and read it because the way he tells that story interweaves not just the facts, but also his personal take, his personal experience with it. So
I know we don't want to belabor the dead horse with AI, and you told us we won't talk about AI. Well, I just want to say real quick, I think it's worth reminding everyone, we haven't seen AI. What we're talking about is not artificial intelligence, not true artificial intelligence, right? Not the Ray Kurzweilian artificial intelligence. What we have is large language models that are very convincing at being creative. Okay.
Right.
But the way these models work is that you spit a prompt into them and they spit back the next most likely word in chronological order. Okay. But that implies they can't do any thinking of their own. Again, it's very convincing. It seems like they can, but they cannot. They absolutely cannot. While we're making great strides toward that, I still think we're decades away from a true artificial intelligence. Maybe I'm wrong, but we're not there yet. All we have is a large language model. And so in the Walter Isaacson example you gave, Kevin, which is exactly the one I would have used, we've got known facts, right? Wikipedia pages and encyclopedias and articles and people we can talk to that can go be fed into this corpus that the lexicon uses to spit out the next potential word, right? The next most likely word. What it cannot do is create themes or ideas from those words. It just simply can't do that.
Right.
And in any convincing tests that I've run, they're based on my own prompting, meaning
Right.
I'm feeding it the theme. I'm saying, what if this? And then it says, oh yeah, well, this is based on what you said. This is the next most likely outcome. So that's just a quick aside. We don't have AI yet. It's very good. It's very convincing at what it does, but what it does is not write nonfiction or fiction.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly. All right. I like this question. Any quick / easy way to migrate from Amazon to DDD? Okay, I'll take it.
You take it. You're the man. You
I
got
don't
it.
know that there's a quick, easy way per se, but honestly, one of the things I did when I was pulling stuff out, because some of my books were in KU for a while there in the early years. When I was migrating that stuff out, all the bits and pieces were already there, constructed for me in the Kindle dashboard. So I just created documents from those. Just went in, opened it up like I was editing the book, did a copy and paste of the description, the keywords, the categories, everything in one easy, like I think I used Microsoft Word, but you could use Apple Notes or whatever, and just have all that stuff there ready to go. And then you just pop on over to DDD and copy and paste. And the files are pretty much the same across the board as well, especially now that Amazon isn't using the Mobi format anymore for uploads. You get the same EPUB format as you would otherwise. So you just port that right in. Can't make it much simpler than that. Although if you have a lot of books, you could reach out to our support team and ask if they've got some way to help you out there. There's always some possibilities. And maybe one day we'll have like an easy button. I'd like to have an easy button that just says, download all my stuff and move it over. I don't see that happening anytime soon though.
For the record, that's an Amazon issue, not a Draft to Digital issue.
Yeah,
Amazon doesn't like any API, any scraping, anything like that. They're very, very finicky when it comes to that kind of thing. So I don't see that in the cards for Draft to Digital's tech stack.
Yeah, that's not a problem that we solve. Yeah, you're right. And Amazon clearly is not going to want to solve it. So speaking of Amazon, this comment I have to post that I don't want to hate on Amazon or anything, but they're having a lot of problems lately.
Lately,
right? Yeah. What are some of the? I mean, I've seen some things popping up quite a bit. One of those was Lindsay Broker, among others, has talked about how the Global Fund, the payout rate has declined lately. What are some other things that you guys have noticed coming from Amazon?
Rankings are all over the place when you first launch a book. Few days at least, they're non-existent. They just don't show up. They may be in the system somewhere, but I want to see the rank, because that's when I want to start doing my promotions. Because we did a test through where I publish books and publish other authors' books. I mean, we did tests where we saw, even if we launched to our huge mailing list and we were getting sales on our dashboard, the rank wasn't changing, meaning 3 days later when the rank finally showed up, it was still down, in the 500,000s, where a new book without any promotion would land. But this was without pre-orders, and that may be different with pre-orders. But that's really frustrating when I'm relying on Amazon's algorithmic juice to look at the organic rank and say, okay, well, this thing has moved up to here. Let's start promoting it to people who have also bought, similar books. If I've already wasted that 100,000, subscriber mailing list promoting, I can't really do it again. I can't really say that again 3 days later. Now that the rank's here, now go buy the book. They've already bought the book. So it's one of the many, many niggling issues I have with Amazon. But hey.
Yeah. And again, it's Amazon. What are you going to do? Here's a question from I'm going to say Tava Lewis. How or who can you recommend for publicizing? Having impossible time getting my books off the ground, or at least at least teach me how to get a great pitch. So this is really a marketing question, really, when it comes down to it. How do you promote your books and get people interested in your books? What are some tips?
I think the first thing you want to do, Tava, is you really want to narrow it down to the finest audience you can. Think about who the ideal readers are. Look at the comp titles, the comp authors. Those are comparable titles, comparable authors. Somebody who's read this book is going to love that book. And that's where a lot of really smart marketing begins. And just here's the thing to remember is a lot of people get terrified of marketing, like, no, I'm a writer, I just want to write, I don't want to market. You're a storyteller, and marketing is storytelling. So if you can, wrap your heart, not just your mind, but wrap your heart around the fact that good marketing is good storytelling, and you're a good storyteller already. Whether you write nonfiction or fiction, you really are a storyteller. That can be a way into it. So when you get to the essence or heart of what that story is, what is the conflict, what is the thing that it solves, whether it's the solution that you're offering in a nonfiction book, or whether it's the solution of what the main character has to face, or whatever, those pertinent questions, that's where a lot of the marketing can begin, I think. And now it's very high level, knowing nothing about your book, but that hopefully gives you some place to start.
Yeah. All the advice you ever get is it never sounds helpful until you really start applying it and thinking about it, but build a mailing list. That's the number one thing people will tell you. That's difficult, but it's still the best way to market a book. Do that way you can do things like newsletter swaps, that sort of thing. Ask favors. If you've got nothing to start with, you got nothing to lose. So go off and ask, your author friends if they'd be willing to share links to your book. Use our universal book links on Draft to Digital. That's very helpful because it's one link that sends everybody to all the places your book is available. That's a self-serving pitch, but it's still a good one.
The promo form. Do you have the link for the promo form too?
Oh, the promo form. So yes, we actually, let me look and see. I don't know that we have that on here. And I always mess it up when I type it. So if Lexi or somebody could drop in the link to the promo, and I'll share it on screen. But we have a promo form. Yeah. I think where I mess it up is I always add the S to the HTTP, and that's apparently not the way it works. So so if someone will share that with me in the comments, I will post that on the screen. And until that happens, we got another question. It's sort of marketing related. I have 2 short books and 1 novel in a series. Is this totally unworkable? Nick, I think you could answer this one.
No, nothing's totally unworkable. And that's why I love the industry that we're in. You can make something work, but you're not doing yourself any favors by having 2 short books and calling it the same series as a novel. Alternatively, what I might consider or suggest is putting those 2 short novellas, whatever length they may be, and wrapping them into kind of like a prequel or a side, what do they call it? On Amazon, there's a word for it, but kind of a addendum to the series. Mm-hmm. So you have the main series and you have the same themes and characters and all that stuff throughout all 3 of the properties, but the novel is the main book in the series, and the 2 shorts are just additionals. People can buy those or not. There's a way to set that up in Amazon. There's a way to set that up on most of the other stores as well, and make it sort of a prequel. I recommend that because, again, what you're doing here is simplifying it for your potential customer, your reader. You're making this easy for them to understand what's happening. So they might look at it and go, okay, cool. I'm going to get, again, you have to consider the psychology of sales, right? People are expecting something when they go to that landing page, whether it's Amazon or a books to read link that goes to another store, wherever that is, your reader has an expectation. Okay. And they need that expectation to be met before they will purchase your book. So that's what you do with your description, your cover, and your title, and all that stuff that individually doesn't matter a whole lot. Together makes what's called the book package. And if you have a book package that says this is in a genre that's typically 80,000 to 100,000 words, which is my genre, thrillers, action, adventure, readers have that expectation. So if I give them a book that's 40,000 words, they're upset. And if I give them a book that's 150,000 words, they're upset. So you just have to make sure that you're making that as easy as possible and you're matching that expectation. So for those reasons, I would say maybe consider taking those shorts out of your main series and adding them on as kind of separate, addition. I can't remember the word for it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Do that with it, and then add your full-length books to your main series. See how that goes for you.
Yeah. Okay. We've had a couple. Lexi was kind enough to drop some links in for us. I'm being told that some do work, but I don't remember which one is supposed to work, not work. But I think if you just type d2d.tips/d2d promo form into your URL bar, That should take you there. The longer URL is draftedigital.com/forums/draftedigital-promotions-form. Those are tough to remember. That's why we created the short one, but I think the HTTP is what messes that
We're
up.
gonna have to check the D2D tips thing. Yeah, the HTTP might mess it up.
We're gonna clean that up, but it should be d2d.tips/d2d promo form. And if you go there, and if you can't, if that's broken, then what I recommend is go ahead and email us at support@draftedigital.com. We will fix you up. We'll make sure you get that, because we have Megan goes off and talks to our retailers and gets us set up with these promotions, and we actually, there's a lot we're doing with this now. So you're going to want to check that out. And of course, you can also do some promotions from the D2D dashboard, at least price promotions. So when you log in, go to the link for your book. There's a little tab at the bottom that says promotions. Click on that, and you can do you can schedule a price change. So you want to set your book to, I think you can do it free on everyone except Amazon, but if you want to set your book to like $2.99 for between today and the end of the month, and you can set that up. And you can even see some on the books to read link. You can actually see clicks, see where your traffic's coming from, that sort of thing. So that can help you with marketing. So if all that went too fast, just listen to the playback of this video at like half speed. But you can also reach out to us at support@draftedigital.com. So now we're at the end. We're going to have to wrap up. I want to thank my two brilliant guides who have helped us get through this Ask Us Anything.
Inferior dressed colleagues.
We're all inferior dressed to Mark right now. So, but thank you to everyone for tuning in. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with everyone you know. That's how we grow this channel, which means we can help you more. And make sure you go to and bookmark d2dlive.com, because we have a countdown. Now we're going to be doing the next thing that's coming up live is actually going to be a webinar that's going to happen on Wednesday at 4 p.m. That's Wednesday, the I'm going to say 21st.
No, 21st.
Today's the 14th. All right. No, today's the 15th. So Wednesday the 21st at 4 p.m. Central, we're going to have a webinar about D2D print. Tara Robinette, very popular when she shows up on the show, but she's going to walk us through step by step some of the things you could do with D2D print. So if you haven't used that already, make sure you check it out. Now, speaking of D2D print, we're going to have this one roll us out. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you guys for being a part of the show. And we'll see you all next time. Ebooks are great, but there's just something about having your words in print. Something you can hold in your hands, put on a shelf, sign for a reader. That's why we created D2D Print, a print-on-demand service that was built for you. We have free, beautiful templates to give your book a pro look, and we can even convert your ebook cover into a full wraparound cover for print. So many options for you and your books. And you can get started right now at draftedigital.com.